I'm sorry that you find yourself here today, but I'm so delighted that you are here because it's one way of feeling less alone when you're going through a difficult time. And that's one of the reasons we are holding this session, to make you feel like you're not alone. There are many other people, especially at this time of the year, um, when the days are starting to shorten and thoughts, there's more time to think and be still. It can also bring up all kinds of things. So I'm here to speak about being with oneself through grief. Now, every situation is very unique, very different. Every loss, every relationship is very different from every other relationship. And there's absolutely no comparison between any two situations. Definitely no hierarchy of grief at all. Nobody's grief is big or small, it is just grief. And so I would say that whatever I say is very much my own experience and my own learning. And so please don't think that everything should apply to you. I'm just going to talk about general things, share some experiences, share some insights, but please feel free to discard the ones that don't apply to you. If I say anything by mistake that is offensive to you, please know that that is not the intention. That is not the intention. It just so it might come out wrong sometimes because I don't have a script. I just speak off the top of my head. But I have nothing but compassion and the willingness to feel one with you and have you feel lighter by the end of the session today. So I lost my son 6 years ago. He was 20 years of age. He had had a very brief illness just for 10 weeks, and then very suddenly he passed away. And I had not even thought that it was possible. It had not crossed my mind that it's possible that my son might pass away before me. And it plunged me into this world where I had to figure it out. And of course, I realized that there was nothing to figure out. There is no figuring out. You just have to. I just had to learn from it and absorb the shock. So when it first happens, it's like, my God, it is so final. There is no going back. And that is so shocking because you're like, surely there's some negotiation. We can bargain. I can go back half a day. Let's go back half a day. Surely we can do something. Come on. And you find, no, there's absolutely nothing you can do. The only thing to do is to surrender. But that struggle between it happening and reaching a point where you realize that is so long, and that fight, I mean, it was long for me, as I said, and that fight to make sense of it when it doesn't make any sense. You keep trying to make sense of it, but it doesn't make any sense. And you keep trying to make sense of it, but it doesn't make any sense. So, yes. So, and it brings up lots of things from the past, losses of other kinds, broken relationships, lost countries, uh, lost friendships, all kinds of things come up when this one big loss happens. And it's almost like you have a microscope, which is also a retrospectoscope, and you look at your life under this huge microscope, and everything seems so big and meaningful when actually it's very hard to keep a perspective on it. So I'm going to share a few slides just to help me with my narration and with help you with the understanding of this, what I'm trying to say. Can you see this screen? Yeah. Okay. So, I really have to think about this topic, being with oneself through grief. In my experience, I thought that I had to be like two people. So I was me and my best friend. So I had to be with myself through grief. So I was the one who was really, really suffering. But that part of me, which was my friend, was really kind to me. Sometimes really mean, but then I could tell it, please don't be mean. Please don't be mean. Be nice. How would you treat your best friend if she was in your position? And that's why it was almost like three of us in a relationship me, the other me, and the grief. And the two of us had to learn to sit with this grief and have a manageable relationship with it and not let it absolutely destroy us. And that's how it was for me. And so, after much thought, I came up with this topic of being with oneself through grief. And I think it's important to recognize that when we are already grieving and hurting so much, our thoughts can somehow sometimes make it much worse by actually telling us things that make us believe that we were in some way responsible, or we could have done more, or we could have made a difference. And that narrative can be very loud for some people, as it was for me. And it still is. I still have moments where I have to tell myself, keep quiet. No, you know, for who you were at that time, you did your best. And you need to embrace that old self of yours. So this is my beautiful son, Sagar. And it was his sixth anniversary just 5 days ago. And autumn is always a reminder, isn't it, of the cruelty and beauty of nature. You know, the trees are so spectacular, and then all the leaves fall off. You know, when they're all, each leaf is like a flower, so beautiful, it falls off the tree, and the tree is left naked. It is such a reminder of the cycle of nature, that it's source of absolute beauty and absolute tyranny, and that's how it is. So when it first happens, it's like, for me it was, I just, it was like a huge roadblock, like this big boulder had landed in my living room and I didn't know what to do with it. It occupied every little cell in my body and every nook and cranny of my house and my life. So, and just didn't make any sense. And that question was so big for me because I just couldn't see a way forward. And I felt like nobody's ever been through anything like this. You know, I'm the only one. You know, life is so cruel. And you know how the popular belief is that we should allow people to grieve in private. My God, how false that is. I could not be left alone for 5 minutes. I just could not be alone. Um, I needed people, and when there were people in the house, there were cups of tea and biscuits and something happening. That was great. You know, that's what kept me going. And I had some of Sagar's friends, parents. They stayed here the whole day, and it was so nice because we all loved him and we could talk about him. And you know, we didn't hesitate before saying his name, and we all felt the same thing. So it was really nice to be with people who loved him. um, and we sort of, they got strength from me and I got strength from them, and it was just the healthiest thing to happen. And of course I was completely stopped in my tracks, as I said, and I had to go away. So India is my country of origin, and all my extended families in India. So I went back, and I was literally just sat for 6 months, because it can be physically so draining, exhausting, um, that I was incapable of doing anything. I would not even walk 100 yards some days. And even now, I have days like that sometimes, but I allow myself to have them. It's okay, you know. It's okay. You've just got to do what you've got to do. If you want to lie in the duvet for half a day, that's okay. Give your. So I now have learned slowly to really slow down when I need to, give myself permission. I would never have done that before, but I've actually this whole thing has really taught me to be kind to myself. And it's also shown me how harsh, how disciplined I've been. My dad was in the army, and this whole army upbringing is so disciplined. I didn't realize that I was just not really giving myself any freedom. I also found that reading and writing helped. So the more I read things written by other people like Rumi and The Prophet by Khalil Gibran, I just found there was so much learning to be had from other people's experiences and insights. And that's why I want to share mine, because if it brings you the slightest comfort, that is worth it. And over time, I also realized that, what was really, really hurting me was my love. It was just pure love that suddenly had nowhere to go. So, and I could just feel, love hurts. It's a song lyrics, and everyone says love hurts, but oh my God, does it hurt? But I think once I recognized it as love, it just somehow softened its sharp edges, sort of softened a little, and I could um, recognize it as my true nature, that it hurt because it mattered. It hurts because there was love, and there is love. And Khalil Gibran has said that love will test you. It will test you to the limit, needs you until you are pliant, and then he assigns you to the sacred fire, that you may become sacred bread for God's feast. That's what love does, and that's what it was doing. It wasn't personal, it was nature, it was love, and it was life unfolding the way it was meant to. There was no point resisting it and fighting it. And I also realized what I was feeling as grief was actually love. And somehow, even if it sounds really wacky, it really, you know, um, very cliched, grief is love. But actually, I have felt that. And it has made my grief tolerable somehow. And also the sense of me and mine, it was my son, it was mine, that is such a source of pain as well. And of course, I gave birth to him, but it's also children are life's longing for itself. They come through us, but they are not of us. And though they are with us, yet they don't belong to us. They still belong to the universe. And they have their own destinies, they have their own learning, their souls have their own journeys, and we can't influence those. We can do our best, but at some point they are their own people, and we need to recognize that. So it was a huge eye-opener in that sense. And the initial months were really torturous because of the circumstances in which he died. There were many questions, and I felt I could have done more. I felt the health services could have done more. My family could have done more. His friends could have done more. My friends could have done more. Our neighbors could have done more. I was just filled with that. But slowly, I looked into I sat with how it feels when you don't actually forgive yourself or other people. There is so much suffering in that. And forgiveness is not condoning. It doesn't mean it's okay that they didn't help. That's not what it means. What it means is you forgive for your peace of mind, for yourself. You forgive others for yourself. So you can breathe and carry on. It does not mean what happened was right. And you can keep doing things about that. But I really struggled with this one. And I think I've come a long way with it. But there are still little remnants of it that I still have to, comb out completely. Hasn't happened 100%. And it is a hard one, I think. Even though sometimes you intellectually understand things, but to actually do them, practice them is different. But at least being aware of this as a thing that can be done, that can be worked on, is an insight that I have had, and I'm glad that I am working on it. So everything, we still live in the same house where we live together, on the same street, of course, and in the same area, and everything is tinged with a bit of sadness, looking at his photographs. While they're beautiful memories, they break your heart. Being with his friends, I love being with his friends. They have the same energy as him, and they're a constant. We can talk about him and things, and yet seeing them also, there's a little corner of my mind which goes, oh, I wonder what he would be like at 26, what he would be doing. So everything is tinged with a bit of sadness, but now I can carry on talking and living and smiling with tears in my eyes. And it's just it's a beautiful thing, because we recognize the bittersweetness of life. I have met such amazing people and traveled to so many places and spoken to so many lovely people, listened to so many people through this experience. And I'm like, I would have never met these people. Of course, I'd have Sagar back in a heartbeat if I could. But, life just, whatever brings you, whatever gifts it does, and whatever it does bring, just accept. There's no point fighting. There's nothing to do. We can hold the horror and the wonder of life at once. It's more mature and complex a stance than simple happiness. Because life, it's the whole shebang. When we are willing to feel everything, then we are really living. So it's not just pleasure, but also pain, and knowing that both exist and they can exist side by side, and it's okay. Yeah, we can deal with it, and that's also a beautiful place to be, even though it hurts. There's nothing to run away from if we can see it as it is. Connecting with the present moment has been a complete lifesaver for me. And I've connected with the present moment through three things. One is my breath. And that's the only thing that's happening in real time, really. Our bodies and breaths are the real things. The past and the future exists in our thoughts, really. And if we can stay connected with the present moment, I think the grounding that happens with that is, um, it's hard to describe actually. I have no words for it, but it's something that's experiential, and I have been practicing just simple breathing exercises. There are some meditations on YouTube by Thich Nhat Hanh. He's a Vietnamese monk who's been teaching meditation for many years, and he's amazing. So I've been following him and doing his meditations. So through the breath, through nature, because nature is very much in the now as well, changing all the time. There's so much to observe and appreciate. And through writing. So I've really enjoyed writing. We'll talk about some more of it later. And through this experience, I sort of looked into Buddhism a little bit and learned some of the things. The Eastern philosophies have a much uh, open way of dealing with death, because they sort of, they accept that whatever is born will die. That is just a fundamental truth, and they're so comfortable with that. There is no fight there. And the principle of loving kindness, not just to others. Whenever we talk about kindness, it's always a be kind to others, but we don't say be kind to yourself also. And Lord Buddha has said that compassion is incomplete if it does not include yourself. So first be kind to yourself, and then you can be kind. Then you can have true compassion for others. And I have so much to be grateful for that I can't even begin to count how fortunate I am in so many ways. Even that Sagar was born to me, I'm so lucky that I had him as a son. Really, I have learned so much from his life and then from his death. He inspires me every day today. He's almost um, my teacher. So in his short 20 years, I think he's achieved much more than many people do in much longer lifetimes. Looking at his memorials and the kind of impressions he's left on people, and his contribution, whatever, through his music and cricket, and through just the human being that he was, through to his friends' lives. I'm so proud of him, but I've learned from all those things as well to actually be the best I can. We talked about the impermanence of life. That is a fact. There is no getting away from that. And the more comfortable we get with it, the more we can absorb this fact when it becomes real in our lives. It is very easy for me to think that I was wronged. And I have thought that. But do I want to stay with that? Do I want to stay a victim all my life? That is a choice I can make. I want to believe, and I do believe, that I have a choice in that narrative. Having a broken heart is a beautiful thing. There is nothing so whole as a broken heart. And even if that happens, the worst happens, you can still have a vision for yourself. You can still know that the strength of the human spirit is such that it is unsurmountable. It can fly high despite the biggest barriers. Kintsugi is a Japanese art of precious scars. The Japanese lacquer They take their broken bones and put them together and make sure that the cracks show. They put gold dust in the cracks so that the cracks are visible as things of beauty. And these broken objects are absolute works of art, and they celebrate the brokenness of things. They're not some broken objects are not something to hide, but to show with pride. And thus we can choose a language of empowerment. We can choose that despite our predicament. We can choose our narrative and experience joy when it comes to us. There's no betrayal in that. It took me a long time to allow myself to be happy because I thought it's wrong. How can I be happy? But I can be happy. It's okay to be happy. I owe it to myself, my life. I owe it to Sagar's memory to be happy. And allowing the wound, honoring it, allowing it to let the light enter you. There's so much learning from a death. There's so much we can learn about life from death. Let everything, good things be your teacher and the bad things be your teacher. There's no running away from anything. It's all going to happen. So what helped me, like I said, was people, really. My husband, my family, my friends, Sagar's friends. And they continue to do that even now. Complete strangers. I remember the florist, when she brought the fourth bouquet of flowers to my door, she just hugged me and cried, on that day. She was a complete stranger, but she knew something had happened. And, I've come across such connection and kindness from people. So I wrote a blog from the day he died, which is called Kids Are Gifts. And that was a journey of discovery, really, of figuring this thing out. There's no figuring out, by the way, but just a platform for me to express myself. I've always written when I've been in extremis, and it had to be public for me, because I thought there was a lot of learning for lots of people if I wrote in a public platform. So I did write publicly every day for 1,000 days. And now I write once in 10 days or so. But writing has become a really pleasurable, beautiful activity for me. And I feel very connected with Sagar when I write. Like I said, connecting with nature, yoga, meditation, and I will show you some flower arrangements I do. I just love flowers, and that's also something that's come about afterwards. The Japanese art of flower arranging is called ikebana. Sorry, I'm just aware of the time. Yeah. And it is, I'll show you some pictures. It's like a meditation. So Sagar went to Dulwich College, and I've worked with his school, and he went to Durham University with his university. So I now by default become speak to lots of bereaved families, listen to them. I used to sing a lot, but then I stopped for 4 or 5 years, but I've recently picked it up again. So so that's been interesting for me to watch. I never thought I could, because every time I tried singing, I would start crying. But but now I can sing, so which is quite nice. So things do change, you know, by themselves. Actually, I haven't done anything to change it. It's just happened. I work with Papyrus. That is a national charity for prevention of young suicide. And they're a lovely bunch of people. I really feel useful working with them. And I counsel or support completely as a peer support, not as in any professional capacity, with other people who might be bereaved. There is a charity called the Compassionate Friends, which looks after parents and siblings. who might have lost a child or a sibling. And of course, being in the present moment, I think, is the biggest gift we can give ourselves, just being present with what is. Our mind is, while it is a useful thing for survival, but actually it has a lot of capacity to make our life completely miserable, especially if we believe everything it tells us. So I think watching our mind and actually overriding it sometimes with our breath and our body is a great ability to be able to calm ourselves and be able to cope with whatever is thrown at us. That's the address for my blog. And these are the arrangements. So this is Ikebana. I'll just show you a few pictures. It's very different, very minimalistic. And they're quite technical in various ways. This is Sagar's bench. It is in at Dulwich College. You can see it, there's a cluster of trees in front of the college. It's right in the center of that cluster. And the school has been amazing. They've honored his memory in so many different ways. And, also supported Papyrus and brought a lot of the learning from Papyrus to the boys. Very grateful to the school for being so supportive. So these are a few of the books that I would recommend. One is called 12 Rules for Life by Peterson, Jordan Peterson, Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, and The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. Thank you very much. I don't know what to do now.
Sangeeta, there should be a button that says stop sharing. And if you click on that one, that's going to disable your screen. There we go, it's working.
Thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. If I can, I'll be very happy to answer.
We have Suzanne left. We have Loz as well. Any questions? And somebody whose name I can't see. Somebody who just thank us very much. Yes, Loz is asking who was the person, Vietnamese monk.
Yes, I'm going to type it down here. I always have difficulty remembering the spelling of his name, so I will check it for 1 second.
Thank you.
Right. It's Thich Nhat Hanh.
So one question me and Slajna had was, do you think that it's important to grieve? And if we don't grieve the loss of something important, can we become stuck and find it difficult to move forward in life?
I think when something like this happens, it generates a lot of emotional energy in us. And that energy has to go somewhere, right? It has to go somewhere because that's what energy does. It flows. So if we don't actually choose to use it in a particular way, then it'll go where it wants. It could be destructive. It could channel itself into poetry. It could, I think it's good. I don't know what is the right thing to do, but actually not dealing with it will mean that it'll do something. But what that will be, I don't know. But it won't be that nothing will happen. Things will go on as normal. I know of people who lost somebody 30 years ago, say their father, and they didn't deal with it at all. And then 30 years later, they really couldn't carry on anymore without getting some really serious help. So I think the more you leave it and be in denial, the more it builds up, and the pressure, like a pressure cooker, it just keeps pulsating with nowhere to go. And then it can have a deleterious effect, I think, if it's not dealt with. But I'm no psychologist, but that's what I think.
But Sangeeta, giving your expertise in mental health, that you're educator and a first aider, how can one recognize within self and within others when the grief has overtaken so much that it has really led to depression? Because we do have, we don't, and also culture differences as well. In Britain, we don't talk much about feelings and emotions. And sometimes people really want to help, but they stay put because they feel that by saying something, you said how you very much enjoyed talking about Sagar and spending time with his friends and so on. Even today, I was passing by Dulwich College and I really thought of him, thinking, probably he was going this way and you must have dropped him as well. So, for you that works. But for some people, that could make him, maybe push them at an uncomfortable level when they would even withdraw more. What services are there to help people? Because often compassionate leave is short. It's only a few days, isn't it? For the loss of a loved one, especially if it happens in more challenging circumstances than not. People tend to carry on. As you said, that stays with them. What would be the services when people really, or if they don't have that network support?
Unfortunately, the bereavement is so poorly understood, even by psychotherapists sometimes. I have friends who have found no help from therapists. GPs don't really have the time to really counsel you as such. So I think, and as you said, you don't really get much time off to actually process it and pay attention to it. And it has actually a huge physical impact on you. It actually can paralyze you, just completely leave you absolutely without any energy for days. So that is the sad thing, that the effect of grief is not really recognized in our community. We don't have a healthy way of dealing with it. It's something that is very private, and it is not almost like a taboo subject, death, as though it's never going to happen to me. It only happens to other people. But I think as long as we maintain that falseness, we suffer, And when we come clean and say, okay, it happens to everybody, it happens in all families, it's something that we have to make peace with. It's the natural progression. That's the way for billions of years people have been born and died. How many thousands and billions of people have died before us? It's not new. This is not new information. It's been happening for years. Why are we so blind? And for me, I think if somebody doesn't want to talk about Sagar, they can carry on. I'm not interested, really. Love me, love my son. And I have no hesitation about talking about him, because I believe that even when people pass on, they exist in another realm. He's my guardian angel. I call upon him every time I come to speak like this, or in the mornings, I think about him all the time, and he's with me. And I think we need to have, it really helps me and comforts me to know that there's no separation, really. Many beliefs believe that there is only one consciousness. There is no you and me. We are all one. Even those who've passed away, they belong to the same consciousness that we belong to, just that we are confined in a body and they are not. That's the only difference. But we all live in the same pool of consciousness, which is everywhere. So I don't believe there's any separation. But because we are so attached to this physicality of our lives, the house and the car, and who's fat and who's thin and who's fair and who's dark and what's your hair and we are so caught in the physicality, we don't realize that there is actually it's just a vehicle. Your body is a vehicle to carry your consciousness. It's a reflection of we are all manifestations of the divine. And even after somebody passes away, they continue to be that, but just in another realm. Now, I didn't mean to go there, but that is my belief. And it is not just it's many people believe that, and they've believed that for thousands of years. So we don't have to believe in anything, but just to know that those who we truly love never actually leave us. They're always in us in some way. He's in my DNA. Just like I'm in his DNA, he's also in my DNA. So he's very much here. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think we all I always feel when I talk to you that he's present, and almost, that gorgeous picture of him. I feel almost that I can sense his voice. It's so true. Los has asked the question.
Yeah.
Do you believe that people who have died can give you messages in dreams? My friend died a month ago and I recently had a dream. In it, she came to visit me and told me that she had to go and gave me a cuddly toy. When I woke, I felt sad, but as the day went on, I felt more comforted and thought that came to me in my dream to say goodbye and comfort me. Now I see her in my mind and she was in that dream.
Oh, that's sweet. Yeah. I think it's good not to ignore your dreams, because that's where what cannot manifest in the physical world can manifest in the dreams. And so it's good to pay attention to your dreams, and if they're a source of comfort, take that comfort. Take it. It's yours. It's a gift. So yeah, I mean, who knows? I don't know. But if it's something that brought you comfort, accept it. That's what I would say.
Thank you so much. Any other questions from anyone? Rosie and I had another one. Sangeeta, you already said that there isn't much out there when it comes to services, and we assume that you will campaign for bereavement or grieving counseling. If there isn't anything now, maybe 5-10 years time, if we all lobby MPs, there will be something out there, because one of us will definitely grieve more than once in a lifetime, and sometimes we might be more affected than other times and really need that extra help. But what would you say if there is a child that is involved that experiences severe loss? Let's say a loss of as you said, that grief is a grief, but perhaps there is a difference if the grandparent dies age 96 opposed to a parent of a very young child. What are the services there? Is there anything that families can turn to in terms of, rather than just charities in the UK, but is there anything within, so to speak, formal service, NHS? Would GPs recognize that too or not?
Unfortunately, charities do the best work.
Okay.
They do the best work because, I mean, of course, you can go to the GPs and, they will put you on the waiting list, but the counselor is often just for 6 weeks or something, max 10 weeks. Whereas there is Child Bereavement UK that looks after children who are bereaved in a very sensitive way. There are charities for widows and widowers. There is definitely this one for parents. I talked about the Compassionate Friend, which is also for siblings. So I think because this is one of those places where you want to be understood, you know. You want somebody to understand how you feel when even you don't understand how you feel, you know. And I think when there are other people who've been in the same situation as you, then you don't need that many words. Because if I meet another parent who's lost a child, we both know how it feels. We don't need many words. We connect instantly, you know, like survivors of Auschwitz, for instance, you know. So anybody who's been through a traumatic experience, they instantly connect. And peer support is really underused in this country. We can use peer support very, very well for healing. And the Winston's Wish is a very good charity for children as well who are grieving. Yeah, you're right. So I think getting all the support you need, get everything. I've never needed so much support in my life. Don't hesitate. Just go out there and get all the support you need. So I have group therapy. SOBS is Survivors of Bereavement by Suicide. There's a website called SASP, which is Support After Suicide Partnership. So they do a lot of work as well. So I think it's starting, you know, bereavement support is starting to become a thing. I know I'm campaigning for it, that there should be better bereavement support because there is a real need for it. People have nowhere to go, you know, and it's not something that therapists are, or maybe it has, with therapists, it's such an intimate relationship that you have to feel right, you know. It has to feel right. And that's something very unmeasurable, you know, what feels right. So sometimes it takes a bit of hit and trial, but individual therapy, group therapy, art therapy, you know, for me, flower arranging, writing, you know, whatever helps, you know, just do it, you know, walking, whatever helps, just get help as much as you can. Go to your GP, see what they can offer. You know, they might be able to offer something. Maybe hire a therapist privately if you can afford it. But it's worth getting help and getting it early whenever you're ready, so that it doesn't, you know, hurt you for longer than it has to. It'll hurt forever, but just make it manageable.
Thank you so much, Sangeeta. I think we all move to the core on many levels. Rosie, do you have any other questions or anything you would like to say? You mentioned some of the useful web pages that you may put in a chat.
Yes, I've got some web pages and some links I'm going to put into the chat now.
We also have some of the forthcoming Bell House sessions that might be of use to all of you. Sangeeta mentioned the benefits of nature. There is a session on 27th of October, Nature for Wellbeing. We're also running mental health first aid course, and also towards the end of November, self-compassion, dealing with your inner critic. And Sangeeta said, we all, I think, need to learn, regardless of circumstances, to be kinder to ourselves, especially when something tragic does strike. And Sangeeta even got a lovely kiss from Loz on main chat. And again, we are so grateful that you are always so kindly giving us your time. And we also feel that we not only know you, but we also know Sagar to some really, 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 really great extent. And it's also worth saying that you have very kindly offered to run a support group for those who bereave. And if anybody who is here would like that, please get in touch with us. The email is rosie@bellhouse.co.uk. And anything else you would like to discuss behind the closed doors, we are only an email away. On that note, I would like to close tonight's session and wish you all as peaceful evening as possible. Sangeeta, we're sending lots of love your way. And thinking of you and Saka.
Lots of love. Thank you so much. Please take good care of yourselves and be kind to yourselves.
Thank you very much.
We're all here for you. You're not alone. You know, reach out to people. You know, they'd be more than happy to help. I'd be more than happy to help. If I can do anything, please let me know.
Thank you so much. Again, lots of love is sent your way. Susan sends love too.
Thank you.
Thank you.